Welcome to Mali Building Systems Siniat how-to video series. Today we're going to show you how to install openings. Before you begin, it is important to have the design and drawing specifications. This will be your guide for building of the structure. Remember to always wear the correct PPE and use the correct tools. Let's begin with the installation. To begin, you need to be able to build a basic Siniat wall, which we covered in the first video of this series called How to Build a Basic Siniat Wall. If you haven't yet viewed this how-to video, do so before attempting to build a wall with an opening. We will start off with showing you how to do a door opening. Determine the position and size of the door opening using a chalk line and measuring tape. Cut along the floor track between the door opening about 40 millimeters on either side. You might have wondered why we added an extra 40 millimeters. The reason for that is that we want to fold the track onto the stud for extra strength. And now we can fix the floor track. Fix the remaining studs. All the studs in a standard Siniat drywall must be spaced at 600 mm center to center, depending on the fire requirements. When installing a door opening, a stud needs to be installed on either side of the opening. When making a door opening, the studs on either side of the door needs to be installed with the webbing facing inwards. As you've seen, that's how we use the extra 40 mils for extra strength. Once all the studs are in place, make use of the small vice grips to clamp the stud flange ends and the floor or top track together before using wafer tech screws to fasten them. As a double verification, you could use both the spirit level and a measuring tape to make sure that your door studs are plumb. Measure the door height and make a proper mark on both sides. Sometimes the floor is not level. That's why we use a tape measure and a spirit level. Okay, welcome to it. Use a piece of floor track, the width of the door frame, and install as a noggin at the head of the door. There are a few ways to install a noggin. The most common way is to use two off-cut stud pieces to install the noggin. When doing this method, you need to use two wafer tech screws on either side to secure the off-cut pieces. There. A good noggin. And 45.5. Measure and cut a piece of stud that can be fixed between the head of the door frame to the height of the adjacent top track. Position the stud above the door frame, keeping in mind the 600 mm center to center spacing. Now you need to be aware of the type of door frame you're installing. If it is a steel door frame, you need to install it before cladding. If it is an aluminium door frame, you can install it after cladding. In our case, we will be installing an aluminium door frame, but the process is exactly the same, except that the sequence is different. If we were doing a steel door frame, At this point, you would clamp the door frame to the stud using small vice grips. Check the squareness with the builder's square. Screw the door frame and the flange together. Drill a hole into the web of the adjacent stud and door frame and fix a pop rivet into the hole to fix the door frame to the stud. Do the same on all other edges. Okay, shut. Right. For cladding, refer to the first how-to video on installing a basic Siniat drywall. There are a few things that you do need to keep in mind. Make sure that there are no joints on the side of the door frame. Always install the 2 plaster boards that fit around the door frame first. The short stud above the opening doesn't always have to be in the center of it. What is more important is observing the 600mm spaces between the studs. Always cut the door opening before fixing the boards if you're using a steel door frame. Remember, if we were installing a steel door frame, we would have cut the board before fixing it onto the frame. Always ensure that the joint is on the stud above the door frame. In our case, we've installed the board as we'll be using an aluminium frame. Now we'll proceed to cut the board with a pet saw using the frame as a guide. For the top, I used a pet saw. For the side, I will use a utility knife and score it as you would do any Siniat board. Once again, I use the frame as a reference. Cut. Remember that the boards must join on the short stud above the door frame. Never join the boards in line with the posts as the joints will crack. The reason why it will crack is due to the vibration from normal use. The board's longitudinal edge furthest from the door frame will be fixed to the studs at 600mm from the door opening. In the case of a steel door frame, the overlapping section above the door opening must be cut to fit to ensure that the 2 boards join on the center stud above the door. Now that we've finished cladding, we can fit our door frame. Cut the aluminium door frame to the height required. Insert the top section of the door frame kit. Then start with either one of the legs. After you've made sure that the door corners are square and fit neatly into each other, you can insert the drywall screws to fix the door frame. What I'm doing now is fixing the aluminium door frame onto the system, onto this lip, using the drywall screws. And these screws can be at 600mm spaces. Please follow the tape and joint instructions from the first video in the series to finish the wall before painting. And there you have it, a perfectly framed door. When installing windows, the same methodology as a door frame is followed. But the intermittent stud that was used above the door frame is required below the window for support. You do not have to cut the floor track in the case of window frame installations.